Imagine your most private moments, moments shared in, the deepest confidence, suddenly just ripped away from that trust, splashed across the internet for absolutely everyone to see.
Hmm.
It's not just like a fleeting thing, is it? It's a profound violation. It can shatter lives, ruin careers, instill this terror that creeps into every single corner of your life.
Yeah.
Maybe with your name attached, your workplace, even your home address. It's not just some digital blip. It's a catastrophe, a deeply personal
It
one.
really is. It just completely unravels trust.
Yeah.
Leaves this permanent mark, often,
Yeah, indelible.
indeed, and the emotional landscape, as you say, for victims of this kind of digital abuse,
Mm.
it's just incredibly bleak. While lots of people just call it revenge porn, right?
Right, that's the common term.
But in our deep dive today, we'll really explore why advocates, legal experts, they're increasingly pushing for more precise terms. Things like non-consensual pornography or image-based sexual abuse.
Okay, so why the shift?
Well, this shift in language, it's actually critical because it correctly emphasizes that the motivation isn't always revenge. That's a key point. And crucially, the content itself. It's a form of sexual abuse. It's not consensual pornography.
That makes sense. It reframes it completely.
Exactly. So our mission today is to really unpack this incredibly complex issue for you. We want to delve into the raw human psychology involved for the victims, their families, and for the perpetrators too.
And the legal side as well.
And definitely examine the evolving legal responses, which frankly are struggling to keep up with the tech, and just how insidious this crime can be.
And when we say deep dive, we really, really mean it. We've pulled together a pretty substantial stack of compelling sources for you.
Mhm.
We've got everything from like rigorous legal analyses, academic papers detailing the devastating mental health impacts,
Yeah, the data there is quite shocking.
to really raw firsthand accounts from people who've actually lived through this nightmare. We've even got this poignant Reddit thread, someone desperately looking for help in a situation that sounds frighteningly similar.
Oh, wow. So real-time struggle.
Totally. And all these different sources, they paint this stark picture, don't they? It's a multifaceted problem, demands our attention. It blends that agonizing personal pain with these intricate, often really frustrating legal battles.
It really does.
It's a comprehensive look, digging into an issue that hits people at their most vulnerable. We're here to guide you through every layer of it. Okay, so to really grasp the seriousness of what we're talking about, let's start by getting our definition straight. What exactly are we discussing here?
Yeah, good place to start.
The formal term, the one that's gaining traction, is non-consensual distribution of intimate images. NDII, for short.
Right.
And at its core, it's about the online release of explicit photos or videos of someone without their permission. Often, yeah, the intent is humiliation, embarrassment, control. But not always, as you said.
That's a crucial starting point. And these images, like you said, they can depict anything from intimate body parts, maybe even partially covered, to someone engaged in actual sexual acts.
Mm-hmm.
But what's really vital to understand is that this often goes way beyond just sharing the image. A really damaging part of this abuse can be something called doxing.
Right, I've heard that term. What does it involve specifically in this context?
So doxing here is the deliberate act of revealing private, identifying information about the person in those images. We're talking their full name, their exact address, links to their social media, their home address, even where they work.
Oh my God.
The malicious purpose behind it is it's to maximize public humiliation, to stretch that violation from online into every single tangible part of a victim's life. It basically destroys their sense of safety, their privacy, their control. It's brutal.
And this really brings us back to why that term revenge porn feels so, well, controversial, maybe, and just inadequate, frankly, to describe the full scope of the harm. It's the phrase we hear all the time in headlines and conversation, but our sources are pretty clear. It just doesn't capture everything. It kind of limits the scenario in our minds.
Absolutely, and that's such a critical point. The words we use, they shape how we see the act, right?
Totally.
Revenge porn, yeah, it's widely understood, but it subtly implies the motivation is always revenge, usually from a jilted ex, right? And that the content is pornography, like in the consensual sense.
Which it absolutely isn't.
Exactly. Our sources show a much more complex reality. Moving towards non-consensual pornography or image-based sexual abuse is fundamental because it correctly focuses on the lack of consent that's a part of the violation and the inherently abusive nature of the act itself.
That feels much more accurate.
And it's critical because it helps remove any hint of blaming the victim, which is a really toxic byproduct of that older term. The truth is, the motive isn't always vengeance after a breakup. Perpetrators might be driven by a cold desire for profit.
Profit.
Extortion, selling images, running websites, or maybe they're seeking notoriety in certain online circles, or just doing it for sick entertainment.
Wow.
And sometimes the images aren't even spread by an ex-partner. It could be hackers who stole private data, or anonymous online stalkers exploiting vulnerabilities. This broader view helps us see it as sexual abuse first, no matter the specific psychological driver behind it.
Okay,
Okay.
that's a lot clearer now. But as if this wasn't already incredibly complex and, frankly, terrifying, we also have to talk about deepfakes.
Ah, yes. The next frontier.
This isn't just about sharing real images anymore, is it? This is about fabricating them entirely.
You're absolutely right to bring up deepfakes. They represent a genuinely terrifying new development in this type of abuse. We're seeing this alarming rise in computer-generated images, synthetic media tech, deepfakes.
And they look real.
Astonishingly convincing. These are intimate images or videos, totally AI-generated, but they depict real people. The tech has gotten so good, it can be incredibly hard, even for experts sometimes, to tell they're not authentic.
That's horrifying.
Yeah, it adds this profoundly disturbing new layer to NDII. Because now, intimate images of you can be created and spread without you ever having posed for them. Or maybe no real intimate images of you even exist.
So the violation can happen completely out of thin air.
Precisely. And consequently, the legal systems are scrambling to catch up. Laws are evolving to specifically criminalize not just spreading these deepfakes, but also creating them. Recognizing that just generating this abusive content is itself a form of harm. It's like a legal arms race against tech that's advancing incredibly fast and becoming more accessible all the time.
Okay, let's really unpack the human cost here. The psychological toll on victims of NDII.
Right.
It's just devastating. It goes way beyond, a moment of embarrassment. It's profound, persistent trauma. Our sources show it can completely reshape someone's life.
Yeah, it's not just a fleeting moment of shame. Like you said, it's an enduring psychological wound.
And the statistics are pretty stark, aren't they?
They're truly sobering. They paint this grim picture of just widespread suffering. Studies consistently show that somewhere between a staggering 80% and 93% of victims suffer significant, often debilitating emotional distress after their private images get out.
80 to 93%. That's almost everyone affected.
Almost everyone. And we're not talking mild discomfort. We're talking a wide, severe spectrum of psychological impacts. Intense anger, naturally at the violation, pervasive guilt, that can wrongly turn inwards.
Blaming themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Crippling paranoia about who's seen the images, what might happen next, profound depression,
Yeah.
overwhelming anxiety that can make just, daily functioning almost impossible.
And it can get even worse.
In the most tragic cases, yeah. This distress can escalate into severe psychological crises, even leading to suicidal thoughts. These aren't temporary feelings that just fade away. Victims often grapple with long-term personal psychological consequences.
Wow.
As one of our sources put it really powerfully, these images may continue to haunt them throughout their lives. It creates this persistent, inescapable shadow.
Like a digital ghost.
Kind of. And the deep shame, the humiliation, especially because it's so public, it can tragically lead to a severe breakdown in personal relationships, intense feelings of isolation. It effectively cuts them off from their support networks right when they need them the most.
And beyond that immense psychological harm, there are also these really tangible, real-world consequences, right? Things that can just completely derail a person's life.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just internal feelings.
No.
It hits their physical safety, professional life, sense of security.
Yeah, so.
Well, our sources highlight that nearly half of all victims, 49% specifically, report experiencing sustained cyber harassment and cyber stalking.
From strangers online.
Yeah, from random users who saw their photos. This just extends the initial violation into this ongoing, relentless campaign of abuse, turns the whole online world hostile for them.
And victim shaming plays a big role here too, doesn't it?
A huge factor.
Yeah.
And it compounds the trauma massively. Victims get unjustly blamed. Hearing cruel things like, it was your fault for sending the picture, or you shouldn't have taken those photos.
Which is just awful.
It exacerbates their shame, their isolation, makes them incredibly reluctant to seek help, to seek justice. And tragically, there's a clear, disturbing link between this victim blaming and increased rates of suicidal thoughts and attempts. It just underscores the immense pressure they face for the abuse itself and the societal reaction.
And professionally.
Huge impacts. People frequently face severe workplace discrimination. They lose their jobs, find it incredibly hard to get future employment. They can basically become unhireable, their digital reputation just trash forever.
God.
In the most extreme, frightening cases, victims can even face physical attacks from people who've seen their images and identifying info online.
So it spills into the real world in dangerous ways.
Definitely. And one of the cruelest parts of this whole thing, it's almost impossible to get rid of the images completely.
Really, once they're out, they're out.
Pretty much. Once explicit images are online, it is extremely challenging, if not entirely impossible, to completely eliminate them. The internet just, it doesn't forget easily. So for countless strangers, maybe even some people who know them, as one source said, to the billions of people that do not personally know you, you are what Google says you are.
Wow, a permanent digital scarlet letter.
That's a good way to put it. It follows them everywhere.
These statistics, these impacts, they're vital, but they really hit home when you hear the actual human stories. And tragically, there are just far too many. Anne-Marie Chiarini's case. Such a powerful example, isn't it? A victim's journey from violation to advocacy.
It really is. Anne-Marie Chiarini, she was a college English professor in Maryland in a long-distance relationship. And over several months, her boyfriend just relentlessly pressured her for nude photos.
That pressure, it's a form of coercion itself.
Absolutely. He promised her repeatedly, convincingly, these images would stay totally private, stored only on a personal CD only he would see. It was this classic, insidious exploitation of trust, leveraging the intimacy, the vulnerability of their relationship.
But that promise meant nothing in the end.
Absolutely nothing. Just 2 days after they broke up, this was back in February 2010, her ex didn't just upload her photos, he put them in an eBay auction.
Line eBay.
Yes. And to make sure it did maximum damage, he posted links to the auction on various Facebook pages connected to her college.
Oh no, so deliberately targeting her professional life.
Exactly. It wasn't just private malice. It was a calculated public attack designed to destroy her standing, her reputation, the audacity.
Yeah.
It's almost unbelievable.
So what did she do? Did she go to the police?
Immediately.
Mm.
Her frantic reaction, understandably, was to get help from the authorities. But she hit this initial wall that so many victims face, especially back then. The police insisted they could do nothing. There were no specific laws covering it at the time.
That must have been terrifying. No recourse.
It left her in this state of persistent fear. For the whole next year, she described living in constant hypervigilance, checking her email, Facebook, Googling her own name constantly, just dreading what new violations she'd find.
Living on edge constantly.
Constantly. And then her worst fears, the ones haunting her. They came true in September 2011. She got an anonymous email. It alerted her to an online profile on a porn website featuring her nude photos.
Oh, God.
But it wasn't just the pictures. The profile listed her full name, where she lived, and who her employer was.
Full-on doxing. Weaponized.
Complete weaponized doxing, meticulously designed to expose her identity, devastate every part of her life. And chillingly, when she reported this to the police, they denied assistance, told her to contact them only after a provable crime had actually been committed.
Highlighting those massive legal gaps back then.
Exactly. The systemic helplessness victims faced.
The toll must have been unbearable.
Immense. The emotional toll of this relentless public exposure. The feeling of having no legal protection. 2 days after finding her photos had escalated to that porn site, Anne-Marie Chiarini attempted suicide.
Oh, no.
Thankfully, she was unsuccessful, and her survival became this profound turning point. She channeled that trauma into powerful, tireless action, turned her pain into purpose, became this active, incredibly effective advocate for legislation to criminalize revenge porn. She helped change the legal landscape for countless future victims. Her resilience is remarkable.
Anne-Marie's story, it's heartbreaking, but ultimately shows that incredible resilience, turning trauma into advocacy. But then you have cases like Jessica Logan,
Yes.
where the outcome was just tragically different. Her story is the stark, haunting reminder of the ultimate, irreversible price some victims pay.
Jessica Logan. She was just a high school student in Ohio. Great girl, future ahead of her. And she had, in a moment of trust, maybe perceived intimacy, texted nude photos to her boyfriend.
A common scenario, unfortunately.
Very common. After they broke up, he sent those images to classmates. And the photos quickly circulated within the school. Jessica was subjected to just extreme harassment from her peers, called vicious names, had objects thrown at her, endured this unbearable public shaming in her own community. Her school became a place of constant agony.
And the school, did they help?
That's what's particularly disturbing, infuriating really about Jessica's case. The systemic institutional failure. The high school administration failed to intervene. They left her without any meaningful protection or support from the very place that should have kept her safe.
So she was trapped.
Completely. To escape the relentless humiliation, the torment, Jessica started skipping school. Just a desperate attempt to find some refuge from the constant harassment that had become her daily life.
And then things got worse.
In a move that was probably well-intentioned but proved devastatingly counterproductive, a guidance counselor suggested she do a televised interview about sexting, hoping to raise awareness.
Oh, that sounds risky.
It was. After the interview aired, instead of finding relief or understanding, Jessica experienced immediate and increasing harassment. The public exposure, far from helping, just intensified her ordeal, made her already desperate situation even more unbearable, more isolating.
This is just heartbreaking.
The tragic end came one day after she got home from a friend's funeral, a friend who had also tragically committed suicide.
Oh my goodness.
That day, burdened by this unbearable weight of humiliation, isolation, feeling like there was no escape, Jessica Logan took her own life by hanging herself in her bedroom.
Oh, God.
Her case just starkly illustrates the profound, often fatal impact this abuse can have on individuals, on families. Leaves this indelible, agonizing scar on everyone involved. A devastating testament to the extreme psychological pressure NDII can inflict.
These personal stories, they really help us understand the pressure, the isolation, the despair victims feel. And they also shine this harsh light on the systemic challenges, right? Especially when trying to get justice, or even just figuring out what legal options exist.
It's a cruel irony, isn't it? In their most vulnerable moments, victims often find themselves lost in this legal and emotional maze.
And to bring this even closer to home for you, our listeners, let's look at something that played out recently on Reddit. It reflects that real-time agony, the confusion people face right now.
Okay.
A user, Dramatic Order 6894, posted from Ohio. Describing this really unsettling, terrifying situation, they found videos on their ex-partner's phone, showing him recording Snapchat nudes and videos from a burner device, it seems, with the apparent explicit intent of spreading revenge porn.
The intent was clear from the evidence.
According to the post, yes. And what's more, the ex apparently verbally admitted to this intent and admitted to doing similar things before.
So a pattern of behavior.
Seems like it. The user was terrified, understandably, worried not just for herself, but also for the other woman involved, who might also be a target of this ex's actions.
This just raises such an important question, doesn't it? And it's one countless victims grapple with in real time. If we connect this back to the bigger picture, that distress, that confusion in the Reddit post, it perfectly encapsulates the real-time agony, the legal uncertainty victims face, especially when the intent is terrifyingly clear, but concrete evidence of the crime, the actual sharing isn't there yet.
Right.
The user felt entirely clueless, but hoped desperately something can be done. That sentiment just echoes the profound helplessness so common for victims trying to navigate this complex, fast-moving issue. It highlights this urgent, desperate need for accessible information, for clear paths to justice.
And the initial feedback they got on Reddit, while probably well-meaning, it also highlighted some really stark, frustrating challenges.
Like what?
Well, for one, several replies pointed out that you often need proof of actual dissemination for legal action, not just the intent to spread the images.
The intent versus action problem.
Exactly. So even with a verbal admission, if the images haven't actually been shared publicly yet, taking legal action can be incredibly difficult. It's a horrible catch-22. The crime has to happen before you can really fight it legally in many cases.
That puts victims in an impossible position.
Totally. Another big hurdle mentioned was hearsay. That verbal confession made directly to the victim. While it feels powerful,
Legally shaky.
generally considered hearsay in court, often can't be used as admissible evidence against the perpetrator, which must feel incredibly invalidating for the victim, knowing the truth of the threats.
Absolutely. Makes them feel unheard.
Furthermore, the laws themselves were often described as weak or insufficient unless explicit harm or blackmail has already occurred, or unless the law specifically covers the threat of sharing, which isn't always the case.
So victims are stuck waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Often, yes, feeling like they have to wait for that actual clear evidence that the crime was committed instead of acting on clear threats or admitted intent. And some people even pointed out the user's own actions, accessing the ex's phone, saving videos for evidence,
Could backfire.
could potentially be seen as an intrusion into your ex's phone. maybe even illegal itself in some places. It just perfectly illustrates the urgent need for accessible, clear info and unambiguous pathways to justice for people caught in these terrifying, legally murky situations.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting and, well, quite disturbing, actually. We often have this image, right, that these acts are driven purely by vengeance, the jilted partner lashing out.
That's the common narrative.
But our sources suggest the motivations behind NDII are way more complex, often far more insidious. It's not always the scorned ex-lover we picture, is it?
No, not at all. The psychology of perpetrators is really diverse. It reflects this whole range of disturbing, calculated drivers. You've hit on a crucial point.
So beyond simple revenge, right? While vengeance or revenge is definitely common, highly recognized often happens after a relationship ends. A punitive, spiteful act, it's far from the only motivation. We also see people driven by cold, hard profit or extortion.
You mentioned profit before. How does that work?
Some actively create or get this content, then distribute it or threaten to, specifically to earn a profit. Others engage in blatant blackmail, demanding money, sexual favors, other things from victims, in exchange for taking images down or not releasing them in the first place.
Wow. So turning personal abuse into a business model.
Exactly. It transforms it into this calculated criminal enterprise where suffering is directly monetized. Chilling.
That is chilling, exploiting someone's most intimate vulnerability for cash. But there are other drivers too, right? Less about money, maybe more about ego, power.
Absolutely. Some perpetrators are motivated purely by a desire for notoriety or entertainment.
Entertainment, seriously.
Sadly, yes. They seek recognition, a twisted kind of amusement, maybe a sense of power from sharing intimate images. They might crave the attention, the reactions, the infamy it brings in certain online communities.
That's deeply disturbing.
Then there's the really troubling aspect of coercion and control. Abusive partners, or even ex-partners, frequently use the threat, or the actual act, of sharing images to control or shame you.
As a weapon within the relationship or after.
Both. It's a tactic to maintain power, silence a victim, force compliance, long after a relationship might be over. It's a classic, deeply destructive form of psychological manipulation. And at its core, all these motivations involve this profound exploitation of vulnerability.
Preying on trust.
Exactly, preying on the inherent trust and the reasonable expectation of privacy that the person depicted had when the images were created or first shared. The psychological impact, the violation of that trust, it's one of the deepest injuries inflicted.
And the internet itself. The digital landscape, it just fuels this, doesn't it? It gives them a stage, anonymity.
Precisely. That veil of anonymity online is a huge enabler. It emboldens perpetrators, creates this psychological distance that can dehumanize the victim, lowers inhibitions.
Makes it easier to be cruel.
It allows individuals who might never act like this face-to-face to target almost anyone, often even strangers, without facing immediate social or real-world legal consequences. This perceived anonymity just reduces the deterrent effect, can turn someone into a malicious online abuser, exacerbates the problem massively, lets abuse spread globally in an instant.
To really understand the mindset, the systems these people create, we have to look at some landmark cases. Hunter Moore, he was notoriously dubbed the revenge porn king. His story just highlights how calculated, how widespread this abuse can get.
Hunter Moore. Yeah, he epitomizes a particularly calculated, cruel, and widespread form of this abuse. He founded isanyoneup.com. Launched in 2010, it quickly became this notorious hub for user-submitted explicit images.
But what made his site so bad? Wasn't it just posting photos?
What made it particularly egregious was that these images were almost always paired with extensive identifying information. Names, employers, home addresses, links to social media profiles. It was basically a factory for public shaming, designed purely to inflict maximum harm.
Just pure malice.
Pretty much.
And the scale. It wasn't just his site, right? There were others doing similar things.
The scale was staggering. While Moore ran isanyoneup.com, sources point to Kevin Bollard's site, yougotposted.com. Similar model, over 10,000 images posted there just between 2012 and 2013, all without consent, all for humiliation. And Moore's operation, it went beyond just posting. It was this complex scheme to actually profit from the suffering he caused.
How did he profit, apart from maybe ad revenue?
He engaged in outright exploitation for profit, demonstrated this really malicious drive. He also ran another site, changemyreputation.com.
Change my reputation, seriously.
Yeah, a truly deceptive, cruel service. He charged victims between $250 and $350 to get their own photos removed from his site, is81up.com.
So victims had to pay their abuser.
Exactly. pay the person who deliberately harmed them just to mitigate that harm. It's extortion, plain and simple.
Did he face consequences?
Eventually, yes. The FBI investigated him. He was indicted for 15 felonies under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, eventually pleaded guilty to hacking and identity theft. In 2015, he got sentenced to 2.5 years in prison.
Seems short, given the damage.
Relatively short, yeah, given the scale of trauma. But it was a significant legal precedent at the time.
And the human cost.
Immense. Heartbreaking. One woman bravely testified against him, spoke of experiencing considerable victim shaming, tragically felt it was all her fault. It led her to attempt suicide.
Oh, God.
Hunter Moore's case is just this stark illustration of how perpetrators can build entire empires of abuse, driven by notoriety, profit, leaving this vast trail of shattered lives, profound trauma.
Then there's another pivotal case, Marquise Jamal Jackson. This one highlights both that extreme psychological malice and the growing legal response, right?
Yeah.
Resulted in that massive $1.2 billion verdict.
Yes. The Marquise Jamal Jackson case, it's monumental, sent a powerful message about the severity of this crime.
And this wasn't just simple sharing either, was it? It was intensely personal, incredibly extensive, a psychologically targeted attack.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jackson distributed intimate images of his ex-girlfriend, identified as DL or Jane Doe, in court papers across multiple platforms, not just social media, but various mainstream porn sites too, and a publicly accessible Dropbox folder, ensuring maximum exposure, maximum permanence.
That's devastating, but it could get even more personal.
What's particularly chilling here, what really exposes the depth of his malicious intent, is how personalized the attack was. It was designed to maximize harm across every single aspect of her life. Jackson went as far as creating fake social media pages, fake email accounts, specifically to share this material with her family, her friends, her coworkers.
No.
He even deliberately tagged her employer and her personal gym on social media posts, ensured every sphere of her life, personal, professional, was infiltrated, exposed, destroyed by his actions.
The premeditation, the scope, it's horrifying.
It underscores this profound, deeply disturbing desire to inflict psychological torment, absolute ruin.
But the legal outcome was groundbreaking.
Absolutely. In August 2023, a Texas jury returned that staggering $1.2 billion verdict against him. That included $200 million in compensatory damages for her actual losses and an unprecedented $1 billion in punitive damages, specifically for violating Texas's revenge porn law.
$1 billion. That sends a message.
An incredibly powerful, unequivocal message about the severity of this crime, the devastating, irreparable harm it inflicts.
So the legal system is starting to recognize the gravity.
Increasingly willing to? Yes. This verdict shows the system can recognize the profound, far-reaching damage of NDII, and it's capable of imposing severe, eye-watering penalties. It's a beacon of hope for victims, showing justice, even if hard-won, can be substantial.
And while many cases involve ex-partners, the psychology of violating privacy, it manifests in other ways too, right? Like pure voyeurism, sometimes with equally tragic ends, like the Darwin Ravi case.
The Darwin Ravi case back in 2010, it's deeply disturbing, very somber. Highlights the destructive nature of voyeurism, the devastating ripple effects of online humiliation, especially among young people. Ravi was a Rutgers student. He secretly put a webcam in his dorm room.
To spy on his roommate.
Yes, to spy on his roommate, Tyler Clementi, who had specifically asked for privacy. That initial act of invasion was already a significant breach, a profound violation.
But it didn't stop there.
No, it escalated way beyond just spying. Ravi live-streamed an intimate encounter involving Clementi and encouraged others to watch, sent out links via text, Twitter.
He broadcast it.
Yes, and even audaciously tweeted about a second attempt to live stream another encounter. It wasn't just private voyeurism. It became this public spectacle for his friends, followers, turning Clementi's private life into this perverse entertainment, the psychological impact.
Yeah.
Almost impossible to comprehend.
And the outcome.
The tragic outcome just underscores the severe psychological distress these actions cause, especially on young, vulnerable people. Just 2 days after this became public, Tyler Clementi committed suicide.
Oh.
It profoundly impacted his family, the Rutgers community, brought national, international attention to cyberbullying, privacy violations. Legally, Ravi was found guilty of invasion of privacy, bias intimidation, a hate crime, as Clementi was gay and tampering with evidence.
What was his sentence?
He initially faced up to 10 years, ultimately sentenced to 30 days in jail, 3 years probation.
30 days.
Yes. The case remains this grim, cautionary reminder how actions may be intended for entertainment, notoriety, when they involve violating intimate privacy, can lead to irreversible fatal consequences. It also highlighted how the legal system, even then, really struggled to grasp the full scope of digital harm, to assign appropriate consequences for such profound psychological distress.
These harrowing stories, they just bring the urgent need for strong legal frameworks into such sharp, undeniable focus, don't they? For a long time, the law just lagged way behind the tech, left victims feeling helpless with no recourse.
Yeah.
But thankfully, the legal landscape is evolving, even if it has its own persistent challenges.
That's a crucial observation. And there has been significant progress, especially at the state level here in the U.S. As of May 2025, South Carolina became the very last state to criminalize NDII.
So all 50 states now have criminal laws.
All 50 U.S. states now have specific criminal laws against non-consensual distribution of intimate images.
Yeah.
That's a monumental achievement, a testament to tireless advocacy, growing societal recognition of how severe this crime is.
That's huge. And civil laws, too.
Many states also have complementary civil laws,
Uh-huh.
allowing victims to seek financial damages, restitution for the harm they've suffered.
That's incredibly important progress. But what do these state laws generally look like? Are they all the same?
They vary quite a bit in the specifics, but generally, most state laws require several key elements for a successful prosecution.
Okay, like what?
The content has to be sexual in nature, intimate body parts, sexual acts. The person depicted must be identifiable from the image or associated info. Crucially, there had to be a reasonable expectation of privacy when the image was made or shared.
Right, that expectation is key.
And the distribution happened without the depicted person's explicit consent. Often, there also needs to be proof of intent to harm, harass, or cause distress.
And the penalties.
They vary widely across states, can range from misdemeanors fines, shorter jail time, to serious felonies with substantial prison sentences. For instance, in Ohio, under the revised code section 2917.211, a first offense with intent to harm is a third-degree misdemeanor. These differences highlight that patchwork nature of state laws, which can make the legal journey complex for victims, especially if they move or the perpetrator is in another state.
So beyond the states, there's also been movement federally, particularly for civil options for victims.
Yes, the federal government has stepped in to provide a more unified path to justice, which is vital given the internet crosses all borders.
Would make sense.
The Violence Against Women Reauthorization Act of 2022, VAOWA 2022, enacted in March 2022, was a real game changer. It created a vital federal civil cause of action.
Meaning victims can sue in federal court.
Exactly. Victims now have a federal route to sue for damages, legal fees, instead of relying solely on those varying state laws.
Hmm.
And building on that, a specific federal statute, 15 U.S.C. Section 6851, effective October 2022. It specifically lets victims file civil suits for up to $150,000 in actual damages, plus legal fees.
$150,000, that's significant.
And critically, it empowers courts to issue restraining orders, injunctions to stop further distribution, gives victims a powerful tool to halt the spread.
And there's something really crucial in that federal law, 15 U.S.C. Section 6851. It tackles those common, infuriating defenses perpetrators use, right? Hits victim blaming head on.
Exactly. And this point cannot be stressed enough. This federal code explicitly states a victim's consent to the creation of images, or even sharing them with specific people they trust. That does not imply consent for wholesale distribution to the public or others.
That is huge.
It's a critical legal counter to that frequent perpetrator defense, the one that perniciously tries to shift blame by arguing, well, they consented by taking the photo or sharing it with me.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
This federal clarity reinforces that fundamental principle. Consent is specific, ongoing, revocable. Sharing in private is never blanket permission for public exposure. It's a powerful tool against that pervasive culture of victim blaming.
And looking ahead, more progress on federal criminal laws, too. Especially around deepfakes, and even just the threat of sharing seems like the law is finally trying to keep pace.
Yes, the Take AI Down Act, signed into law May 2025, marks another significant forward-thinking step. It makes it a federal crime to knowingly share, or, crucially, to threaten to share intimate images. And it explicitly includes AI-generated deepfakes.
So the threat itself is now a federal crime.
Yes. And this act also imposes specific, legally binding requirements on platforms. They have to remove such content within 48 hours of getting notice from a victim, and make reasonable efforts to identify and remove any known identical copies from their services.
That puts responsibility on the platforms, too.
It does. This legislation is a major stride towards a truly comprehensive federal response. addresses critical gaps where only state laws existed before,
Mhm.
and recognizes the unique, devastating challenges posed by synthetic media. It's an acknowledgement that the threat itself is a form of profound harm.
So specific laws are now actively targeting deepfakes, not just trying to shoehorn them into old definitions.
Precisely. And beyond these recent federal moves, it's worth noting some pioneering states, New York, Virginia, California, they already had laws by 2023 specifically criminalizing the spread of AI-generated pornographic images without consent.
So states were ahead of the curve there.
Demonstrates a growing recognition, an urgent response across different jurisdictions to this new, rapidly evolving frontier of digital abuse. Underscores the urgency legislatures feel in tackling this.
Well, the U.S. system grapples with this, making progress. It's always insightful to see how other countries are handling it, right? Highlights common struggles, different approaches.
What's fascinating here is definitely the varied international response to what's clearly a global problem. Spain, for example, they have specific, robust laws criminalizing revenge porn, jail sentences from 3 months to a year, or substantial fines.
And ways to get content removed.
Yes, their organic law 159999 on protecting personal data specifically lets people request removal of intimate content from websites if it's deemed inadequate, excessive, irrelevant. Gives victims a clear administrative path for content control, data protection.
What about somewhere like the Netherlands? Were they as proactive?
Not initially, and this highlights a common challenge. The Netherlands traditionally relied on existing libel or slander laws. Max penalty 6 months prison or a fine, but often just a fine.
What was the legal hurdle there?
Proving the intention to damage reputation and a public aspect to the sharing could be tough for victims to establish. However, there's a new legislative proposal being debated now. Aims to make it a separate offense, up to 2 years prison.
That sounds better.
But even this proposal faces challenges. Proving the perpetrator knew the material was unlawfully obtained or had specific intent to hit the victim underscores the complexities of defining proving intent in digital abuse cases. Shows how even with good intentions, legal clarity can be really elusive.
So some countries are still catching up, while others have more comprehensive strategies. What about Canada and Australia? They often seem progressive on digital rights.
They certainly do. Canada took a decisive step back in 2014. Passed the Protecting Canadians from Online Crime Act, explicitly criminalized non-consensual distribution of intimate images, made under a reasonable expectation of privacy, clear, specific legislation, direct path for prosecution.
In Australia, you mentioned their approach is often seen as a model.
Yeah, Australia offers a truly multi-pronged approach. They have civil law remedies, like claims for breach of equitable obligation of confidence cases, like Wilson v. Ferguson show victims can seek compensation that way.
Okay.
They also have robust criminal laws, state and federal level, with much higher sentences for images involving kids. And uniquely, Australia have this comprehensive civil penalties scheme, run by their e-safety commissioner, an independent regulator.
What does the commissioner do?
They can issue legally binding takedown notices to platforms, individuals, and enforce significant penalties up to $805,000 for individuals, $525,000 for corporations if they don't comply. This comprehensive approach gives victims multiple overlapping ways to seek redress and enforcement.
Okay, so despite all this progress, U.S., internationally, victims still face huge practical legal challenges when they try to pursue justice. It's rarely straightforward.
That's a critical point.
Yeah.
And it causes immense frustration, re-traumatization for victims.
Yeah.
As we saw vividly in that Reddit case, one major hurdle is proof of dissemination.
Right, the intent isn't enough.
Intent to spread, even if verbally admitted, often isn't enough for police action. Police typically need actual, clear evidence the crime was committed by disseminating the images online.
So victims have to wait until the damage is done.
Often, yes. Wait until their images are spread widely before legal action can really start. It's a significant psychological burden, forcing victims to endure the very harm they're trying to prevent just to build a case.
And that verbal admission, the one that feels so powerful to the victim, it hits a legal wall.
Precisely. Verbal confessions made directly to the victim, generally hearsay, not admissible in court unless specific exceptions apply, leaves victims feeling invalidated even when they know the truth of the threats.
Makes sense. Frustrating, but makes sense legally.
Then there's that massive obstacle, particularly in the U.S., website immunity, Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. This is a truly contentious, complex area of law.
Okay, let's connect this to the bigger picture then. Section 230. It's a huge hurdle, right? It means the person posting might be liable, but the platforms themselves mostly aren't. Creates that whack-a-mole problem for victims.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. Interactive online service providers, social media, blogs, forums, generally immune from liability for content posted by users. The law says, no provider or user shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another.
So they're just conduits, legally speaking.
Largely, yes. This immunity applies unless the content breaks certain copyright laws, specific federal criminal laws, or if the platform actively solicited or deals predominantly in revenge porn, which is a very high bar to prove.
And for victims, this means?
For victims, it means even if they successfully get content removed from one site, it can easily pop up elsewhere, often on multiple platforms. Forces them into this relentless, emotionally exhausting cycle of chasing the same material over and over. It's like trying to bail out a sinking ship with a teaspoon. It's incredibly demoralizing.
So copyright law, that might sound like a potential fix, right? Unauthorized sharing. But even that has limits here.
Indeed. Copyright law only offers a viable path if the victim actually took the photograph themselves, if it was a selfie, essentially. Even then, they have to proactively register the copyright, usually within 90 days of posting or publication. To fully leverage DMCA takedown notices, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. Those notices are powerful tools for removal.
But they don't stop the initial act.
Right. A DMCA notice can lead to removal, but it often does little to discourage individuals from engaging in the distribution in the first place. It focuses on the content, not the perpetrator's malice. And it doesn't guarantee damages unless the victim sues separately for copyright infringement, which is another costly legal battle. It's a narrow solution for a broad, deeply personal problem.
And what about cyberstalking laws? Don't they apply?
Not always neatly. Cyberstalking statutes often require proving a pattern of threatening behavior, causing reasonable fear. But in many NDII cases, the perpetrator posts images in a single instance, maybe with devastating effect, but it makes establishing that legal pattern difficult.
Proving intent is hard, too.
Can be. Perpetrators might disingenuously claim other motives, money, personal sexual fantasies, further complicating prosecution, muddying the waters. And finally, crucially, there are ongoing First Amendment concerns.
Free speech arguments.
Exactly. Debates over free speech versus individual harm constantly complicate legislation. Groups like the ACLU, EFF, advocate for narrowly tailored laws protecting expression while still holding abusers accountable. This delicate balancing act makes crafting effective, comprehensive constitutional laws incredibly challenging, often resulting compromises that still leave gaps for victims.
Okay, so what does all this mean for you, listening right now? If you or someone you know ever find yourselves in this incredibly distressing situation, what do you actually do? The immediate steps are crucial. It's about safety, evidence, and your well-being. It must feel overwhelming, paralyzing, but there are actionable steps to regain some control.
Absolutely. The very first, most critical step, document everything, thoroughly, systematically. Your gut instinct might be, get it down, take it down now. Resist that urge for a crucial moment.
Why wait?
Because before anything gets removed, you absolutely need to gather and preserve evidence. This means taking detailed screenshots of the content itself, exactly where it was shared online, when it first appeared, who shared it, if you can tell, account names, usernames, IP addresses maybe.
Capture everything around it, too.
Everything. Capture any comments, any direct threats you receive, all the search results leading to your images, any relevant texts or emails between you and the perpetrator.
Yeah.
Create a meticulous timeline of events. This documentation will be absolutely invaluable if you decide to pursue legal action. It's concrete proof.
Okay, document first. Then, amidst all that chaos, intense emotion, who should you not talk to?
That's key advice for self-preservation. Do not engage with the suspect directly.
That's all franca.
No. Direct engagement, pleading, confronting, negotiating, even just expressing anger can tragically escalate things. Could lead to more harassment, doxing, even blackmail. Best to maintain strict distance. Let legal or support professionals handle communication if needed. Your immediate goal is protecting yourself further, not confrontation.
Got it. Evidence gathered, no contact with the suspect, then what? Report it.
Yes, report to police. It is a crime. Reporting allows law enforcement to start a formal investigation before critical evidence gets removed or destroyed by the perpetrator. Gives them the best chance to act, even if historical responses weren't always ideal.
And personal well-being. This must take an enormous toll.
Paramount. And not something you should try to shoulder alone. We strongly recommend you seek mental health support. Find professionals specializing in sexual trauma. Organizations, crisis hotlines like 988 in the U.S., they're available 204/7 if you're feeling overwhelmed, having suicidal thoughts, or just need someone to talk to. Remember, you are not alone. Compassionate help is available.
Beyond that immediate crisis response, which is so critical, there are also longer-term strategies, right? To mitigate the damage, slowly regain control over your digital life. It's a marathon, not a sprint, it sounds like.
Absolutely. One highly effective proactive measure is using specialized image blocking services. Organizations like stopncii.org are incredibly helpful.
How do they work?
They let victims generate a unique digital fingerprint, a hash for their intimate images. You don't upload the image itself. This hash can then be shared with participating platforms. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok are involved. They use the hash to proactively block identical content from ever being uploaded or shared. Creates a digital barrier against its spread on major platforms. It works silently in the background.
That's amazing. But what if the content is already out there, or on smaller sites that don't use those services?
In those incredibly tough cases, content removal from platforms and search engines becomes crucial. Requires a more direct approach. You can and should report the content directly to major social media platforms: Yahoo, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, Tumblr. Most now have strict community guidelines, specific policies against NDII. They often have dedicated reporting channels for this.
And getting it out of search results.
Yes. Use the web forms provided by Google and Microsoft Bing to request removal of links to your images from their search results. Now, this doesn't remove the content from the original site where it's hosted.
That makes it much harder to find.
Exactly. Significantly reduces its discoverability for anyone searching for you. It's often called the right to be forgotten in places like the EU. Can drastically limit the damage. You might also consider hiring private takedown services. They charge a fee, but specialize in these complex removals, can aggressively pursue content across numerous platforms.
And we talked about copyright law earlier. How does that fit into long-term mitigation?
Right, an important though specific tool. If you took the photo, the selfie scenario, you can copyright your images. Registering the copyright with the U.S. Copyright Office, for example, lets you use those powerful DMCA takedown notices.
To force removal.
It gives you a strong legal basis to demand removal from hosting sites. Copyright infringement is one of the few exceptions to that broad Section 230 immunity for websites. Gives you legal leverage.
Okay, so beyond specific content removal, blocking, it's also about shoring up your general digital defenses, managing your online footprint proactively.
Absolutely essential. Regularly review your privacy settings and online security across all platforms. Strengthen social media privacy settings, remove untrusted connections, be incredibly mindful about what personal info you share online and with whom.
And try not to obsessively check for the content. That must be hard.
It's a common, deeply damaging trap victims fall into. Constantly monitoring comments, obsessively searching for the content. While initial documentation is vital, continuous monitoring can become re-traumatizing. Traps you in this cycle of reliving the trauma. It's essential to set healthy boundaries for your own mental health. Delegate monitoring to others if you can.
Ultimately tackling NDII effectively. It needs more than just reactive measures, support after the fact. It needs proactive advocacy, a fundamental shift in our digital culture's mindset. Prevention is key.
This raises such an important question, doesn't it? One every single person navigating the digital world should think about. While legal remedies, support are absolutely crucial after a violation happens, the emphasis on prevention, proactive steps like understanding digital consent, diligently managing your online footprint is equally vital. Maybe more so.
It's about stopping it before it starts.
Exactly. It's about empowering individuals with the knowledge, the tools to protect their digital privacy from the outset. Key advocacy groups, like the Cyber Civil Rights Initiatives, CCRI, the Cyber Helpline, and they play pivotal roles here.
How so?
They're instrumental in raising crucial public awareness, supporting legislative efforts to close those legal loopholes, and providing direct, empathetic assistance resources to victims. Their work is invaluable in shaping both the legal and the social response to this pervasive abuse.
And for individuals listening, it really comes down to cultivating this fundamental prevention mindset, making informed, cautious choices about what we share, who we share it with, under what circumstances, recognizing the risks.
Exactly. Firstly, always remember, you can always say no. If someone asks you to send explicit images, regardless of your relationship, the pressure you feel, your comfort, your bodily autonomy, your explicit consent are paramount. Full stop.
What if you feel pressured?
Secondly, if you ever feel uncomfortable, pressured, threatened by such a request, Immediately tell a trusted person, sharing your feelings, your concerns with a friend, family member, mentor. It provides immediate support, helps you assess the situation objectively. Don't carry that burden alone.
And just being aware of the baseline risk.
Crucially, yes. Be aware of the inherent risks involved in posing for or taking explicit photos or videos. The digital world has an extraordinarily long memory. Once something is shared, even in what feels like total confidence, there's always a persistent, undeniable risk of it being spread non-consensually later. Digital trust is fragile. Once broken, almost impossible to fully repair.
We've even seen this prevention mindset creeping into more formal agreements now, haven't we? Reflecting this growing awareness.
That's a fascinating, very telling development. There's this noticeable rise in prenuptial agreements that now explicitly include social media provisions.
Like what kind of provisions?
These clauses often specify couples agree not to share harmful images, private communications, or make damaging posts that could hurt a spouse's professional reputation or personal well-being, including any form of non-consensual intimate image sharing.
Wow, building digital privacy into the marriage contract.
It's a clear sign that digital consent, privacy, are becoming increasingly recognized as fundamental, legally enforceable aspects of modern relationships, even before marriage. It's a proactive step, building a legal firewall against potential future NDII, #outro.
Wow. What we've unpacked today is just the stark, undeniable reminder of the profound vulnerability we all face in this hyper-connected digital age, isn't it?
Mhm.
From those heartbreaking, incredibly personal stories of Anne-Marie Curini and Jessica Logan highlighting the devastating psychological, real-world impacts on victims, to the varied, often insidious, calculated motivations of perpetrators like Hunter Moore, Marquise Jamal Jackson, we've seen how deeply personal, legally complex, emotionally scarring this issue of non-consensual intimate image sharing truly is.
It touches every aspect of life.
And while the legal landscape is slowly, surely evolving new state, federal, even international laws, the path to justice often remains really challenging, fraught with hurdles like proving dissemination, navigating hearsay complexities, battling that broad website immunity under Section 230.
What's truly fascinating here, and maybe most challenging, is that while technology just keeps advancing at this exponential pace, our human capacity for empathy, our collective understanding of digital boundaries, our legal frameworks, they often lag significantly behind.
We're always playing catch-up.
It kind of feels like it. So, as you reflect on this deep dive, maybe consider this provocative thought. In an increasingly digitized, interconnected world, how do we collectively foster a culture of respect, consent, digital literacy that truly protects individual privacy? Not just through laws, through pursuing justice after the fact, but through our everyday digital interactions, our personal choices, our shared responsibility to call out and condemn this profound form of abuse.
How do we make the online world safer, more empathetic?
Exactly. How do we ensure that the painful lessons learned from these devastating experiences actually translate into a safer, more empathetic, and truly private online environment for everyone? That's the ongoing challenge for all of us.